Welcome everyone to the Voice of Terminus show. We are joined by Lex. Say hello, Lex.
Hello, everybody.
And we've got Josh with us as well. Say hello, Josh. Josh, we can't hear you, mate. You're muted.
Hey.
There he is.
There I am.
He's a bit down. We were watching soccer before the match, before the stream, and it didn't turn out as well as we thought it would. Anyway, so we're going to talk about what we just saw from VR, and we're going to also show off the footage. And there's a few things I definitely want to talk about, but we'll get into that in a minute. Before we kick it off, Lex, your quick rerun of what you thought about the stream.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I think this is something that every other MMO or just game developer, they're really missing out not doing things like this. So kudos to VR. Because what you're doing here is you're showing your audience exactly what it takes to do what you do. There's no magic curtain, there's nothing like that, no magic wand to get all this stuff done. You're showing people that it's taking exceptionally hard work, amazing amounts of creativity, and dedication to get this stuff done on the time frame that you're working on.
Yeah.
You're also giving your pre-alpha pledges a chance to kind of see what they're going to be getting into. So it's not going to be this massive shock of, oh, I expected blah, but I didn't get it.
Yeah.
And that usually starts off their experience on a bad note, especially if they don't have previous experience testing. So overall, great opportunity, executed very well because of course Cohh is a great streamer, and this is something I feel that they should definitely try to do a little bit more of.
Definitely, yeah. Oh, what about you, Josh?
Yeah, I think that Lex has hit it on the head. I think that these type of videos just keep the interest of the crowds out there, and will really help spark people's creativity, the thinking at least around it, and also bring in new people. The amount of people that I've seen looking at past videos saying that, wow, the graphics have really improved, now I'm really interested to get involved in the game type of thing, sign me up, is incredible. So definitely a lot more videos like this, and obviously keeping some of the mystery aside for the final game.
Yeah, the great thing was, the team behind it, talking about how the lore is going to interact with, the individual stages throughout the city, and how in depth and how well thought the process is behind it is just outstanding. We'll see that in a minute when we go and play off the video. I'm going to go switch over to the scene and we'll start playing off this video while we talk through all this. I was just blown away when they got to the blind fate smith. That was, for me, was probably the awe moment. Hearing what their thoughts were behind it, and when Cohh actually showed off the screenshots of what it's going to look like, or what it can look like when it's done, it's just wow. That is one phenomenal building. I can't wait to see it actually happen, and see it actually over time grow as well, because people in pre-alpha are going to start to see how they start putting things together, and how these grey boxes turn into textured boxes, the finished product over time. And that is one hell of a see, I have to say.
Yeah. They absolutely nailed that feeling of grandeur, just overwhelming awe when you walk to the gate. Because when you first look at it, when he first logs in there or brings it to full screen, you're kind of like, yeah, it looks like a pretty big city. And then he keeps running towards it, and it doesn't really seem to get any closer. And then eventually he's like over halfway across the bridge, and you're like, damn.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out, though, is, the size to character ratio when you look at this bridge that you're walking across, it's actually pretty realistic. Thinking about having hundreds of people, or when armies go marching out, and then you get closer to this door, to this massive gate, and then you got these two small doors, these two small entrances, and it just comes all together. You know, this is looking brilliant. You know, you'll see hundreds of people running up and down this bridge, and it's not going to look like it's overcrowded. It actually looks like it's meant to look.
Right. I mean, it really looks and feels like a capital city.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas if, you know, I'm an old EQer, you go up to Freeport, you're just like, yeah, it's a pretty decent sized city. You know?
Yeah.
But it doesn't really feel grand unless you're coming from like Ultima Online, like I did, where you're just like, yeah, this is a pretty amazing city going from 2D to 3D. But after 3D gaming has been around for a few decades now, you kind of expect a little more. It's just the way it works, and this really does the job.
It just makes me feel as if they're protecting the city from giants. How massive these walls are. Reminds me of that manga.
Now, I've paused the screen because Cohh basically turned around, looking out from the city gate into the distance, and just looking at that view, it is just so majestic. You can see the vast depth of this world, and it's just jaw-breaking. It just makes you want to just go look.
It makes me just want to pick a direction and go adventure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I can tell you with 100% certainty that has not been another game to do that for me in at least 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes you want to run into those hills and find the caves and find hidden stuff, and it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yep. And I have a feeling that, you know, well, I mean, just the thought out, the amount of planning and design that went into just a door, mind you, a very important door, is, I hope, gives a lot of people more perspective on what it actually takes to create, not necessarily an MMO, but games in general. You know,
this will definitely be the next thing that I will be addressing in Voxel Studio. I will be rebuilding this entire thing.
that'll be interesting. That'll be something I'll watch. But I mean, even right down to the planning where you have these grand doors, but, you know, if you have a small amount of traffic, why open the grand doors or the gate? You know, you can just open a small side door. That's actually how these things were designed. You know, they didn't want to open these giant, massive gates every time one person came in, so they had those. So seeing something like that incorporated into the game really means they put an awful lot of thought behind it, and they also use like historical references and such. Great, amazing. That's like head and shoulders above most MMOs out there. You know, when Cohh hit it right on the head, where it feels like most of these games just take a dartboard with a bunch of key phrases and throw darts, and there's our lore, RNG, our cities, and we're done. You can see
that they've basically given it so much thought that even looking down the road in 3, 4, 5 years, it's still all going to come together and make sense. And you know, it's not something that is we've got a hole here, we need to fill that and just, you know, shove something in there. Yeah, so that's basically the first concept art, first approach onto.
What I like about it as well is that if you have a look at the detail in what they're drawing over there, and the replication of that detail in the actual door itself bodes well for the future of the game, because the amount of detail they're putting in is incredible.
Yeah, that's something that we definitely have to point out. You know, it's been, you know, from 2014 to now. You know, people are getting antsy and can't wait to finally get in and start the testing, and then, you know, wait for alpha and pre and beta and everything. We should give these guys all the time they need to make this game, because the amount of detail, the amount of planning, the amount of effort these guys are putting in, day out, is a reflection of what we're seeing in this stream.
Right. Now, I mean, they probably didn't really go into as much detail as they could have when they were talking about the process. Like, we see the sketch here, and we see how we have like kind of the rounded to a point door, you know, with the grand walls beside it. Then if you look at the footage in game, I mean, it's a very similar door, but it is not that door.
Yeah.
You know, which means, you know, they drew it. They went through a couple probably sessions to say, I like this, I like that, I don't like this, change that, try this. So there could have been like 6 or 7 drawings here, and, you know, granted, amazing artist, you don't just whip that up, you know.
No.
And then from there, you gray box it or placeholder it, as I just call them placeholders, but they call it gray boxing. So they gray box it out, and then I slowly work on making it a reality.
And you know, the picture doesn't do that door justice at all.
No, it doesn't.
You know, when you, I mean, don't get me wrong, the picture is amazing, you know, it's good concept art, but when you see it in game, it just comes to life. It's just like, wow. You know, from that image to that as a final product.
Yeah, the texturing and the texturing and the depth really adds life to the door itself.
Yeah. And when you look at that door, this whole process from discussion or their jam session to actually being in the game and to the point where you can actually see it, that could be days or even weeks, you know, on a single door. So that's why I tend to get extremely frustrated when people are very impatient, like, oh, I want to play this game right now. It's like, well, so do I, but I want to have a good game.
Yeah. Yep.
And if that's the amount of detail they're going to put into a door, I can just imagine the detail they're going to put into the characters, the mechanics, the combat, everything.
Yeah.
It really gives me a little more of a sense of security about Pantheon. Because a lot of you out there know I was always a cautious optimistic. I'm very hopeful, but I've always kind of stood back a little bit because I have been burnt so many times in the past. This stream right here gave me a little more security in the future of the game.
Yeah.
And I really, really sincerely hope that it did to you as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, alone the notes and everything, that's the second concept art now, the actual concept art of the door. The amount of notes on there, explaining every little detail, why it's like that, and, you know, explaining the whole process and giving you a complete understanding as to this is why this is there and this is what this is going to do. You know, that shows a level of passion that has been missed in many games in the past.
Right.
The one thing that I'm cautious about, though, is that they plow too much detail and too much of this into it and basically run out of money, time, etc. in the long run. So I hope they've got a nice balance as to the timelines they need to get these things done.
That is a very valid concern and probably one that is shared by an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
Given the fact that until a game hits, I want to say, a more finalized beta, there's really no telling which way it's going to fall, you know. But the thing is, if we look back at the history of Pantheon, the original dev team volunteered their own time, their own resources to just getting this game started. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Brad McQuaid even fronted a lot of his own personal funds to start this game because of Kickstarter failing.
Yeah.
I think that should the House of Cards start to tumble, I think that the dev team would basically band together and be like, we're going to get through it. You know, we're not just going to give up.
Definitely. You know, and it's something that I think a lot of us even share, even from the community as well. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, because don't forget, when they, you know, like you just mentioned, their Kickstarter failed, but they still carried on.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, people had full-time jobs and were doing this, you know, on the side as well, all working from home, doing their thing. and you know it's still carried on and carried on. And you know the biggest hope is that VR do land few big names to help fund that game. You know, some household people, investors that have a bit of cash on the hand to say, hey, you know, we'll further fund you guys and help you out. It's definitely well deserved, and you can see almost the arrogance behind the whole team saying, hey, we're not giving up. You know, we're gonna carry on and carry on. But what I want to quickly bring up now is as well, did you notice the level of detail on the clothing of these characters?
Yeah.
That just looks outstanding. You can actually see that he's wearing cloth.
Right. You can see at a glance.
Yep.
I will still say, because I know a lot of people are still going to be on the same, we're going to say, little island as me, is that I'm still not happy with the run animations. I mean, a lot of the character animations, I know there's a very good chance that they're not finished. Okay. I acknowledge this. But I'm just going to say that from what we see now, I'm still not happy with them. I understand that they can't do motion capture because that takes an incredible amount of investment to do. Okay.
Yep.
Which is how a lot of these games get really, really smooth run animation, or just character animations in general. So they're doing all this most likely by hand, and that's not easy.
No.
Just there's no way around it. But I'm just going to say to the rest of the people who are on this little island with me, let's give them the benefit of the doubt here. Let's just hold off and just try to focus on the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
my thinking as well is that, yeah, if they get the running maybe 80% right, and they kick the game off and people start pumping the money in on a monthly basis, that they will hire the guys to do the next level of animation for the characters down the line.
That's a thing that they can always do, you know. And that's I understand and definitely agree, and you know, support people that have the concerns with the animations. But hey, let me say it like this: that's something that should be a concern further down the line when the game's almost ready to hit launch, because that's something that they can do almost on the fly. You know, there's not so much going into that. I mean, if we keep on pushing for, you know, the character animations and how they run and everything, they can put many hours into this now, but that will down the quality of the complete game in itself. You know, we definitely, it's a concern, but like Lex said, give them the benefit of the doubt. They've already proven to us the very first iteration of character models, what we have now. They've proven to us that they can make it look very nice and beautiful with all the lighting effects. I mean, the clouds as well. It's most probably the best weather system I've seen in an MMO, even at this early stage. Look at those clouds.
Yep.
You know, so give them the benefit of the doubt. You know, don't keep on pushing for something like that. That's not important right now. Important is getting the game, the environment done, making it fun. That's the most important thing right now. So they enter here into Throne Fast, and I think it was Forrest telling us a bit about this. With two lions, if I was correct, there will be two lions basically greeting the players when they come in. And there will be also the audio visualization where people will have two different kinds of audio, one on the left, one on the right, where you hear on the left you hear all the soldiers fighting and swords clanking and practice and stuff like that.
Training grounds.
Yep, training grounds. And on the other side you'll hear, you know, priests whispering and church bells going off or whatever. So it's kind of like, you know, you make a choice. What would you prefer to listen to? Like, and you go either to the left into the area, what you're going to go to first, or onto the right side.
for me, it's going to be. I mean, I'm going to listen to both of the
Yeah.
music to determine what I enjoy. It could also be for me a case of how I'm feeling that day. You know, if I'm feeling all business and like I'm going to adventure and get stuff done, I might go to the soldier side. If I'm feeling a little more relaxed, maybe a little playful, I'll go over to like the bards and the priests or whatever, where I might listen to a little more upbeat music.
For me, I think I'm on the same fence with Lex. But at the beginning, I will go to the priests. Playing a healer, you got to give the priests some love, okay? I got to stay true to my class. So
Only when my hit points aren't full.
I'll go to the priest first, definitely. What about you, Josh? Where would you go first? Or how do you see it?
I'd go to the bards. I'd like to just see what that, because I think it'll be a lot more colourful there and not so on the other side. Yeah, that's my decision.
Yeah, just looking at this. We'll look at that character. I think later on down in the stream. Who was that? Who's the guy in the dark leather?
I don't remember. I was more paying attention to like just the environment rather than the characters, to be honest.
I've got Joppa there. We'll see who it is in a minute, but it just struck me when they go left. Cohh got a nice shot of the level of detail on that armor.
Yeah,
he's wearing,
and you also get to see the different materials.
Yeah, definitely, and that just looks outstanding.
You see that invisible shield there? It's brilliant.
And it's well designed as well. It's not overcrowded. There's not too little or too much going on.
Well, I mean, remember, there's no NPCs and there's no like little doodads everywhere. But when you start adding like NPCs roaming around, guards standing in certain areas, and a bunch of other stuff like potted plants or like little cats walking around, just little bits, if it's not large enough, you can feel very claustrophobic in these areas, and it can actually take away from the grandeur of the environment around you.
Yeah, and also the immersion as well.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at these roads, they're so wide, you can almost feel that there's going to be. You can feel that there's so many people running around and talking and chit-chatting and just standing there in the middle of the road, yapping on, and you can almost feel horse carriages transporting goods to the marketplace and heading out and going back and forth, and bar fights going on in the tavern, and there's so much room to do all this to make one feel immersed in this city and just be like, whoa, what's going on here? So the reason why, just quickly want to point out as well, why these grey boxes are put in place, they actually hold a use. This gives VR the chance to see, before they do everything, is it too big? Is it too small? Do we need to adjust? And so forth and so forth. So that helps them kind of get a reference, a feel to how it looks in the world, and helps them easily scale these appropriately.
And map the city out properly without having to create the finished graphics and wasting resources that way.
Yep.
But I would have loved to have seen them go into one or two buildings. I must admit, I would have loved to have seen that.
Well, I would have loved to have seen them building something from like just the ground level to the grey box to the finished product, like speeding it up, so to speak. So you can
like
see
a time
the
lapse.
process, a time lapse, of it going from start to finish, just to show you what's involved.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, that might be actually something that should be suggested. If VR happen to catch this stream at some point, a nice little time lapse of going through a building process, maybe preferably the blind Fate Smith. I would love to see that one, honestly. That's my favorite building already.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
I gotta say, hearing all the lore and stuff behind it, like the Fate Smith, granted, it's obvious that it's played off of the Greek fates, you know, weaving the tapestry of time or whatever it was. I'm not super up with that stuff, but anyway, it is very similar, but it is still unique in its own right, because it's a blind smith hammering out the details of the world. And I like it. I mean, the iconography of it, where you have the anvil and the hammer hammering the scroll, I mean, that is very unique. I can certainly see that inside the building already.
And they're talking also about, you know, the Pantheon of the human race as well. That's his building, basically. That's where he originates from. And I could almost see an expansion down the road where we get out of the Frail Age and the New Age starts, and this huge Pantheon shows up, goes to that anvil, picks it up, and you can actually see the cloth being moved along to the new one, where something new has happened, and he's hammering down on it.
You know, I know they had talked about that particular altar with the anvil and the hammer. It would be really neat if they had the scroll almost turn in, like, it would obviously go around the room a little bit inside the domed area, but then have it come out of the building and down the steps almost like a walkway, and you could actually read some of the history of the the Age of Chaos and stuff.
Yeah, but you'll be able to. Didn't they say that you could still see basically some bits and pieces?
Yes, I do believe they did say that. I was just thinking out loud, where it was just that'd be neat if it was actually coming out of the building and down the steps, and you could actually read something. You know,
that would be, you know, that's something. Honest VR, that anvil. If we can't craft that as a house item, I will lose my mind.
Well, if you were worshiping that deity, I see no reason why you couldn't create something of their icon. You know, there's no reason not to. I mean, even if I'm a scarred dire lord, you know, I'm probably going to want to have my statue of the Nine God, just for the sake of having it. You know. Even though I am not a housing guy, I am not much of a crafter, I would still probably go after it.
That's a nice tavern sign. At least they got that already sorted out.
Yep. We know.
I bet you, Kilson was inside that tavern the entire time while they were streaming.
Oh yeah.
We should have seen, like, you know, Kilson say something and it was all garbled, like in EverQuest when you drink booze. You say something and it's just complete garbage. No, I still gotta say that, you know, we know that Cohh is not.
Oh, here we go. We
know Cohh is not on site or even close to where Pantheon is being developed or where their servers are being housed, because he's based in North Carolina. The gameplay is still very smooth, and I know people out there saying, "Well, he's probably on a super, you know, crazy connection." That's probably true, but I've got a pretty crazy connection myself, and I've been on MMOs that just refuse to run smooth.
Yeah.
For whatever reason.
So here we can see the level of detail on the armor here.
Yep.
The rivets and everything.
Yeah.
You can actually see that it's cloth. It's all dent. And
yeah. It's
almost
like
feel it moving.
Do you think it's maybe like a sort of like a soft leather as well, perhaps?
It almost looks like a studded leather to me.
A studded leather, yeah.
Because I mean, I'm just gonna guess. I'm gonna say that's a rogue.
Yeah, definitely assassin rogue.
Yeah, so I would assume. I mean, studded leather.
Definitely.
Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would just lose their minds if all of a sudden he was carrying like a hand crossbow. Just swap your weapons.
Yeah, so do you guys want to speculate on the possibility. We know that that's the tavern. That big building that they first showed off, running past that. What's basically on the left of this shot here? What do you guys speculate that could be? For me, it's something definitely governmental. From the size of it and looking at the front, you had the stairs going up.
Yeah. I have a feeling, I don't know, just from that angle, looks like a massive animal housing or something like that.
Because if we go
It
back,
could be a stable.
go back, I think,
Barracks,
see them running past it. Does it say anything there? Let's have a look. Is there anything that we can see on there? Anybody read any of that?
No. Actually, well, that one that I'm seeing on the screen right now, that was the fort, dark and something.
Mm.
I was not taking notes, so you can all lecture me later. But
yeah, so it's this building
barracks.
here, basically.
I think it's a barracks,
yeah,
military.
yeah, it is a barracks or a training ground or something military.
Mm.
At least that picture was.
So I'm thinking that building basically on the right of the tavern, that looks almost like a bank of some sort, where you'd have like your bank and administration, stuff like that. Yeah, that's what that kind of.
Your guilds, that type of thing, man.
Mm-hmm. Go move that on. Yeah, that building they're looking at right now, basically.
All I can say is that it would be very difficult to say without
texturing and the finished.
Well, even just a little more detail on what that particular district might
now
house.
Does look like a bank.
Now the interesting thing though is as well when we get to the marketplace, basically.
Well, I know that
from that
was the bank.
From that angle, whoops. From here, basically, if you look towards the right, past that tree that's there on the right, there's that big grey box, basically, that's similar to what they had at the entrance, but it's going through. So it begs the question as if, is that a back door or is that just a hall leading into the next possible area of the city?
I would say maybe the next area of the city, because there's got to be some place for the housing to occur.
Yeah,
and that might be any city would have their housing on the outside as a first barrier of protection against a horde or something like that, to the main center area.
You know, when we look at the layout, how they've done this, they could easily. You've got look at that grass, right? Look at that plot. That's a plot. You could put a building there later on. Somebody could have their guild house there or something like that, or they could expand and put something down there. So, that would be the dream, is to have like plots put out all over the place, and then those are things that guilds could go out to purchase and challenge for getting these plots to put down their guild houses. That would be, I think, phenomenal if they would do something like that, because there's plenty of room for them to venture in that route.
Yeah, they're building our guild house right there anyway. Straight ahead.
That's too small, dude.
Yeah, starting one.
I mean, I know there's still a lot of empty space inside the city walls. I'm hoping that we don't see all of them filled up.
Yeah.
Because this will give them room to actually expand the city and actually make real change to the city.
Yeah.
That's still probably one of the biggest things that I need to see in an MMO these days. Is I need to see change.
Progress throughout the world.
Yeah, not just adding new zones, but change the zones that are there.
And talking about that though, with the space, looking at this screenshot now, or the pause screen, the spatial area for the the pavement they could easily put down a lot of construction stuff, bricks, wood panels. You can actually see the city being renovated or building being upgraded, and so forth and so forth. There's plenty of room for them to just add those features in, even if it doesn't necessarily be something that's dynamic, but putting the NPCs just there, like a
Right,
game
yeah.
updates, the game goes down, it comes back up, and all of a sudden you got all these workers just roaming the streets and all these pallets and bricks and
Well, yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be something where you could actually watch board for board the NPCs build it. No, you could just put the hint enough of these hints visually to make you feel like, yes, it is being built. I'm just not going to sit here and watch it because it's boring, And that way, when you're running by and you see a pile of boards, a pile of stone bricks, maybe an NPC who's roaming around doing some just very basic idle animations, it will give you that little thought in the back of your head, like something's going on in the city,
So on the right here, it looks like we've got stables of some sorts where you'll have, cattle and horses, most probably to trade and all that good stuff. And here on the left side, you've got the small stores.
Stalls,
the market store. They also said that not all of them are going to be vacant by NPCs and stuff like that. That also begs the question: can PCs go out and rent a store to sell goods? Maybe.
That's the $1 million question.
Because that would be awesome to have. You'd have your NPCs, and you've got PCs in between these stores that can sell their goods as well, and I think that's an interesting thing, or something to explore, pursue the idea of possibly having PC stores as well, where we can sell stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed.
I mean, there's still an awful lot of speculation just to be had on the fact of like PC vendors. Do you have to keep your account on? Is it just they turn you into an NPC when you log off and you define what you're selling? I mean, or do you hire an NPC at a stall and you just pay him commission? We're at a point here where you could still speculate about just about anything in this game. And
correct.
If you use what little hints and stuff that we have already, you could probably just flip a coin to see if you were like close or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing that a lot of people are dealing with right now is there's just enough.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Newcastle?
No.
In Newcastle, basically, the town square is it's a square base, a massive square, and on the side is one pub after the other.
Yeah.
And if we look at this marketplace now, this marketplace is all on the outskirts, going all the way around. I think that's brilliantly done.
Yeah, I agree.
It looks really good. There's plenty of room for people to wander. You can almost see Wednesdays or is market day, and you've got hundreds of people trying to sell goods, NPCs screaming at people, come buy my stuff, and all of us players running, trying to get through and past each other to get to the stores and look at all the stuff. And they even said on these screenshots as well that the different colours represent different
selling items.
Selling items, yeah, the items that are to be sold. And then you have something like this one on the screen with the emblem from Throne Fast. It looks more noble.
Yeah.
And
what I'd like to see is that if you are online, you can sell your stuff at a store, obviously, for a small upfront fee. And if you are present, you get the full value back. But if you go offline and you do give your stuff to an NPC to sell, they take a 20% commission of that sale at the end of the day. So
that would be a acceptable way of balancing it out.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm the greedy type that I'd be like, I'm just gonna leave my computer on.
Yeah, same.
Someone taking 20%, I start getting nervous. Takes them like, no.
But your faction then actually reduces that amount that they take as well.
But
The city.
Right.
you know,
We've spoken about that before.
another interesting thing as well about seeing this marketplace. It almost gives me that local feel, that this is the Thrown Fast local market. Only here is where you will find this, that, and the other. So if you want to go and find something else from a different culture, you'll have to go to their city and go and look at their market to find stuff.
Right.
No, it does. There's no streaming.
That's not to say that there might not be, say, a dwarven vendor in the Thrown Fast market who would sell axes and armor that would give you that dwarven look to them.
But it's going to be a lot more expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because they've had to travel from the dwarven areas all the way here, so the traveling costs and everything like that involved is going to increase the pricing.
That's what we talked about. Having certain items from different cultures, if they do come and sell it Thrown Fast, we're going to have to pay, a lot more money for it, because it's not something that is indigenous to our area or to our species and so forth. So we would pay more for the mithril armor. Yeah.
But there's a sub-game in itself in the game. You could run from one city with probably... or with a donkey or something like that, with X amount of armors from that one city, and go and sell it at a profit at another city over there to make more money. And you could just basically do that.
See, I'm a big fan of sci-fi. I'm going to call them simulation games because you basically just sit in a cockpit and it's a sandbox. I'm a fan of those games, and a lot of them you always start out as a trader, going from system X, selling in system Y, etc. Now, why? Yeah. Elite is the most recent one. Now, why not do that in something like this? Because we know travel is going to be significant. It would certainly add to a supply and demand type economy. And granted, I understand that it is an astronomical amount of work at this point. Perhaps maybe in a future expansion, but it's something that is not adventuring. It's not raiding. You could potentially do it as a group that I would still participate in. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I know it is something that I would certainly pursue.
Well, it's, it's something that we, have talked about multiple times when it, came to the crafting and when just general discussions, is having actually something to do with trade and, create trade routes with, and connection points to other cities and bring local materials into that culture and show them, hey, here we have this unique wood that is bone fast bound.
Right. The only real downside that would have to be seriously addressed is the fact that if you have a money-making game, almost a mini game, you need something significant to spend that money on.
Yeah.
Which means it could potentially be out of the reach of adventurers, or you need to find a way to limit the amount of money being made by these trade routes, or something to really balance it out between different play styles.
Let's say they do have diplomacy in Pantheon. Right, that could be one secondary function that you take on. So you're an adventurer crafter and you take on diplomacy as an option. So that's something that you can dabble in as a secondary game to help pass your time and get you away from the raiding and your standard adventuring and so forth. And then you could have trader. So you could basically turn, so you can become a trader. You're a crafter, adventurer, and you're a trader as well. So that means you might get better prices because you have a better understanding of the markets. You might know...
Or you can haggle.
Yes, exactly. If you're a diplomat, you might get better rates within the cities or be able to create alliances more easily, or get out of trouble more easily. stuff like that.
Right.
So those are kind of things that they could add to spice things up, like you said. Also later down the road, I want to quickly ask though, do you guys remember what was said about this particular building here that was meant to show up here? It's meant to be very, very special. I can't remember what they said. Maybe chat remembers.
Well, but it looks to me as if it's going to be some sort of like ascension type place, or not ascension, but more of a where everybody gathers around to hear big announcements from the king, that type of thing.
Just, you know, this is no shot at VR, but it reminds me of the portals from World of Warcraft. Where the king, where the king basically went through, yeah, the Stargate kind of thing.
The Black Gate.
That's no, that's not a sheep shot at VR. It's just
no.
It's just realistic.
Similar
Just seeing
shapes.
it, similar shapes. It looks almost like those big massive portals.
Right. I mean, I've completely swamped my own brain thinking of other sections of the city that whatever they had said about this is completely fleeting. Like I said, I know I should have been taking notes. You guys can go ahead and put me in the stockade because I didn't. But it, just looking at it right now, it really looks like a platform of some importance. Like Josh has mentioned, possibly announcements. It could even be a ceremonial platform, maybe
a throne with
or it could
seating
be,
on it.
Yeah, it could be for public displays.
Oh.
Like someone's getting knighted, that's where it would happen. You know.
My video just got off. No, I don't want to do that. Sorry about that, guys. I'll be right there with the video again. I do that
because it felt like it.
That's the wrong one. I should open the right one. It's that one I need.
All of a sudden, we get a video of Yarn dancing in front of his computer.
Maybe. Let's go move forward a bit.
Oh, worse. Too far. Last half
too far.
hour of the soccer game we watched.
It's definitely going to be interesting to hear more on that particular building. They've definitely held up the suspense now to hear more on that.
Yeah.
And then actually going into a lot of detail on the blind fate smith was actually very surprising, because when I saw that, I said, wow, you know, I need that. It's brilliant.
I need those as little statues on my armor, on each shoulder.
Yeah.
I will say though that I think I would actually much rather have that statue inside the building where the light from the dome would shine down on it.
Oh yes, I think you're right.
Because then you actually have a reason to have that, like the scroll kind of flowing down the room or around the room perhaps, or out the door. I mean, I understand why it's out in the front, because that's typically where you would see something like that. But putting it inside where you would have even just like the god rays shining down on it from the domed ceiling, would really
different colors as well. If you have stained glass ceiling and different colors
hitting, I think it would really hammer, no pun intended, hammer that feeling of awe into the player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes and do it.
So here's the concept art, and again the level of detail put into it. Wow. I just can't wait to see that thing in its fullest, in its pride, in its glory, stand in there.
It's incredible.
It is. And then here's the concept art with the building together. And you can see at the bottom, almost towards the middle, you can see where that anvil is. And what Lex was talking about, the cloth going all the way into the building and all the way around up to the top with the dome, wrapping itself around the dome and actually wrapped inside that cloth is the glass, basically. So this is the forum, yeah, that's it. It's what they call it, the forum.
I like what Zastras has said. He said he wants an art book, and that would be something amazing if you had some sort of a hard-covered art book that you could get from them. And you can buy it separate.
Shipping? Done.
Oh, definitely. I would buy that in a heartbeat if they got artwork like this in it.
So, and you can see again the concept art for the flooring as well. The amount of details put into this, they definitely put a lot of thought. And if that's just for one building, and for one door, and for one entrance, yeah.
See, you know what that says to me? That says that when I go into the tavern, the whole building is going to flow nicely, so that I can go from hard day adventuring, sit down, to drunk on the floor, and it'll all go smoothly.
With glass, small little shot glasses being kicked into your head while you're unconscious.
Yep. I mean, let's face it, guys. The tavern is the most important building in every game.
Oh yeah, it is. It brings everybody together.
Yep.
And that's where meetings get held. Oh yeah, guild meetings. If there's no guild hall at the start.
We'll just take the forum. We'll rent it out.
You're going to have some plonker trying to get to the top of that hammer.
I still
and
love
stand
all the
there.
little notes. All the little notes and stuff that you see on them all. I mean, I think the handwritten ones have a little more of an impact.
And authenticity to it.
Right, versus the very neatly typed up ones. Granted, those are nice too, but the hand drawing with the little scribbles and notes and stuff, I mean, it really gives you a sense of you're watching it.
Or being there with the artist, basically.
You know,
yeah.
If they had the means and everything, I don't know if they do, to do cinema graphics, CGI trailers and stuff like that. But that would make for an awesome introduction for Thronefast, where you see the Pantheon hammering down on that anvil with the hammer, and you see the cloth moving and getting dented and going through the different ages.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you on that one.
Me too. Yeah.
Because I think that if there is going to be any kind of cinematography or a cutscene to the city, it's going to be of a fly over the bridge and the gates opening.
Yeah.
That just screams, "Oh, throw it back."
What is that on top of the dome, though? That's what I want to know.
On the very top.
Yeah.
It's a bird bath.
It's
for a bird feeder.
It looks like a hammer, but it doesn't.
Not sure.
Have a look when we get back to the from the concept art, right? Oh,
Uh-oh.
There we go.
Look at the chat.
Hey, welcome. Yeah, it definitely looks like some kind of hammer, maybe.
Yeah.
Two-sided hammer. Another thing also to note for those that are still on the fence of pledging, the 26th of November this month is when they will be shutting off the possibility to purchase a VIP pledge monthly. You'll still be able to purchase after that, but it won't be on the more lighter way. You'll have to basically put the money down in a one-time payment. So if you're still interested and you want to get on, but you can't afford to put down a lump sum, you still have the chance until the 26th of November to
get on the payment plan.
Get on the payment plan. So that's something very important to note.
I would like to say that if you do happen to miss the chance for whatever reason, be it the fact that you're still kind of on the fence or you can't financially afford that type of investment, don't feel bad. I mean, there's still going to be the regular pledges that you could still possibly even get beta access. Because I'll tell you right now, as a former tester, testing isn't for everybody. It can be tough. It can be very, very tough physically. It can be tough mentally. Burnout is a real issue with a lot of testers who also like to game. So it's great that they're being shut off because that means they're reaching the numbers that they need. That means they've got a very, very strong financial backing from the community. So thumbs up. But it's going to put a lot of pressure on some people, especially with it only being 5 days.
Yeah.
Closing time. I mean,
well, they have mentioned this though. In the TwitchCon stream, it was mentioned.
It's not new.
It's not new, but
it's not technically new news, but it could be. A lot of people could be like me, where you tell me something once, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure thing. And all of a sudden you tell me, by the way, Lex, we got a show tomorrow. What?
Well, actually, that does happen though.
That does happen a lot.
That happens a lot.
I do think
with the both of you.
I do think that you're going to be available for the stream. What stream?
I do think that the beta, going into the beta stages itself, it could open up another set of pledges. So because then you'll have more to show. A lot of people will be more interested at that point as well. So yeah, I think it's just positive from here.
For a lot of people out there who are not necessarily fully understanding the weight behind alpha testing, I would strongly recommend that if you're looking to be a tester, aim for beta. Beta is a very good kind of like a more finished product where actually beta is technically feature complete. They're just ironing out bugs. So you're going to have a much more enjoyable experience. You're also going to have possibly, because I don't know for sure, but typically in beta, you have a lot more time to play. Whereas with alpha, it's the servers are up for 2 days. You guys have to go after this kind of thing, So you could potentially have a much more enjoyment out of a beta experience versus alpha. As much as I want you to financially support Visionary Realms with this project, I'm looking out for you guys here.
So
seriously consider what would be a best fit for you.
I've just paused it now to have a look at the temple. You can see in the background there. That's what they were talking about. The buildings being too big, too small. You can actually see how that fits. That building looks absolutely right from the size comparison. When you look at the forum in front of you, and you can see the temple in the background. That gives you a visual feel towards the different sizes of the buildings and how they kind of work off each other and how they look from each other. So that does actually really make sense.
Well, I don't. For me, I hope it's not the finished product of a temple, because that to me first strikes it as more of a mage's tower type of thing, with that steeple itself.
Right.
So I do hope that they expand it to more of the towers around and build it up to something that looks more temple-like, I feel.
Right. I mean, scale is something that's incredibly difficult to do in a video game. I have made a couple little, not very good games, but just for the sake of learning. And scale is incredibly difficult to nail down. I mean, the fact that they have it dialed in as well as they do right now is pretty impressive.
So, somebody got a message. So while he's looking at that message, I'll quickly bring in my thought. What Cohh pointed out here as well with the shadows. Looks amazing. Now picture that in its full colour, and the shadows actually move and everything and bounce off of it. Looks brilliant.
Yeah, here's one thing I'd love to see at some point, though, is the changing of the weather in the city and how it affects the snow on the buildings, maybe autumn leaves falling into the water, that type of thing.
Oh yeah.
Curious how they'll handle that,
Mm-hmm.
because that's definitely complex, I reckon.
Right. The only thing that I can like with this particular building here, although yes, it is gray boxed, there is still a lot of work to happen with this particular one.
Yeah.
This one makes me feel like it needs to expand width-wise when you're looking at it from the front, and also perhaps maybe putting some buildings that are a little like jetting out a little bit from the front to almost feel like you're boxed and surrounded.
I would
Yeah.
also, give it a few more smaller towers though as well.
Yeah, exactly. And round them.
Yeah,
I know this is boxed, and maybe they will be round at the end product, but definitely it doesn't scream priestly to me, or that type of thing with its square edges. It looks quite kind of sharp and dangerous type.
Well, the sharp edges, that's just because of the fact that it is literally boxed out.
So
correct, yeah.
So what do you think we're going to see on that pedestal here in the water?
A fountain.
Well, it will be a fountain, but I think there will be maybe some sort of a goddess holding up a bowl or some sort of a item with the water coming out of it. That the faith represents within the city.
I just can't wait to see the lighting effects.
Oh yeah,
that's the first thing that I always do when I was building a landmark, for instance. It would be the first thing that I put down with my light sources, just to catch that visual effect, regardless of what texture you've got. Having those lighting effects is, I can't wait to see that. You were going to say something next?
Statue-wise. Kind of what I want to see that I don't really remember seeing much in a lot of games is I want to see like a heroic depiction of a female warrior.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it could be a paladin, and everyone knows how I feel about paladins, but it could be a paladin, because you got like, the sword raised up in the air. You can have the water basically shooting up and sprinkling down on it, and because when they mentioned that there was going to be like a waterfall in the front there, at night, have the water almost have this like holy glow to it.
Yeah.
So when it's nighttime, you look up and you just like, it almost looks like it's just radiating purity.
Yeah.
Also, what I'd also like to see, in the midst of the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., like, sometimes have some fog, have it all foggy as well, especially in the marketplace. Have it nice and foggy, for instance, and that clears up over time.
Or just ice on the on the roads.
You know what? I can just see VR in their little meeting watch or watch us going right down. Us going, expletive deleted. I wish these guys would shut up.
Yeah, but they got but they've left themselves so much room as well.
Yeah.
And so far the placement of the buildings looks absolutely right. Even though that it's very spacious and they have plenty of room, but they've left them so it's almost as if they've really thought this through deliberately for the reasons that we said earlier on, for expanding, for maybe leaving up options for maybe housing, this, that, and the other. They've actually given it a lot of thought, and the spacing is well put.
And this is just the ground level. I'm hoping that there's going to be some sort of a sewers beneath it, that type of thing. Catacombs, maybe an older city that was built, and this was built on top of an older city, maybe, or something like that.
And if you look at the back of this, I've paused it now, to the left of that temple, there's another building at the back. So we haven't seen everything that's even behind this as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And given how much space they've given between buildings, a lot of people would see that as dead space, and I would agree that most people would see that. But when you take into account the fact that you could have potentially dozens or even hundreds of NPCs roaming around on their own little patrols, perhaps a lot of stationary ones, I mean, just that one little priestly area I could see priests sitting on the edge of the fountain, and you would see dialogue about them discussing,
or having
philosophy.
benches and
Yeah.
benches around the sides.
Right.
And you're 100% right. And you know what? Dead space can be there for a reason. Dead space actually fills a void and allows for maybe future gatherings, to develop stories, those type of things as well.
Yeah.
But Foamfast almost has that noble feel to it. A very noble feel. The city looks majestic. They're very disciplined, and they have a lot of gardeners who take care of the grass and all kinds of stuff. And what I've just done is pause the video here because this gives us a super example of looking at what they were talking about with the dead space. On the right side, you've got that big, massive patch of land with a few trees on it. But if you're looking straight down, how majestic it looks, and how it comes across, and you've got the building at the back there, or the gate at the back there. Sorry, that's the gate leading out. There's plenty of room to expand. That's what I'm saying. There's so much room they can they can fill that up with other stuff.
Just to interrupt for a second, when you said you had people taking care of their grass, all I can think of now is a halfling running around with garden shears. That's all I can think of. It's just that one NPC, just a tiny little halfling that runs around with shears or hedge clippers. It's like they're the city gardener.
Yeah, it's definitely coming along really nice.
I mean, to build on what you were saying, I mean, if I were to throw myself in game, actually visualize myself as a living part of this environment, I could see this city representing the pride of the human race on Terminus.
Correct.
And it really shows in the design where, yes, this has been around for 500 years and every generation has done something to it, and every generation has taken immense pride in their city. And it just screams that.
Yeah,
it does.
I'm just looking at the sheer length they've got to go now, heading towards the front again. And how
It's
the buildings
massive,
and how the buildings slowly come into perspective.
He has a gazebo or some sort of a. I don't know what this would be as well, but
I will claim that gazebo as my own.
That door just looks amazing.
I mean, when you have those archways or entryways into the different sections, like we see them gray boxed here, when those are fully fleshed out and detailed and textured, you're really gonna kind of feel that sense of awe when you're walking beneath them, and even just watching them as you go under. I mean, you're just gonna be like, whoa, because it really is a grand city.
It is. It feels timeless, basically.
Yeah.
That it will stand forever. And we know that nothing stands forever, but that's the feel that it's going for at the moment.
Right. Yeah, all I need is my tavern and we're good.
Oh, the tavern's got its sign already, so...
It's, as long as it's got a sign so I know where it is, and alcohol, it's all I need.
And there was already talk about it apparently expanding itself. The Magic Tavern.
It's bigger on the inside than on the out.
Leads to a drunken dimension.
That's what I'm going to do now. Whenever my character gets drunk in the tavern, like it's bigger on the inside than the out. And all the players will be like, "What's wrong with this guy?"
Oh, it's incredible, the views from the city, though.
Yeah, but
there's layering. It's incredible.
But the way they've done it though as well, it's almost perfect. Standing on top of there, looking at those buildings, it just feels right.
And do you see the texturing in the floor there by the lion, each individual little stone is makes up that lion. It's quite incredible.
Yeah.
That's how they've made it feel.
Well, I know this is going to be like incredibly technical and nerdy, but when you look at the cobblestones down on the ground from the height of the wall, and you'll see this in WoW, that when you're up in the air over the ground, you can actually see where the texture is repeating, because it is just tiled. So you can see like the little squares on the ground when you're like flying along on your griffin thing or whatever it is. I didn't see that here. You know, I didn't see that telltale square that was tiled over and over.
Yeah.
And of course, oh nope, now I see it. Never mind, my bad. I was gonna say, I was just thinking in my head, it's like, if they didn't tile, how in the world did they do that? But it's like, nope, now I see it. Okay, good.
Maybe there's an algorithm that they have. That
But now, having this, you know, upper view now, you can see how much space there is, and you can almost see why they've done it like this. It makes absolute sense the way they've done it.
A throne area or of some presentation in the center there, announcement area. I mean, you look at the big space around it for all the people together. It's definitely
or perhaps it's going to be like a grand canopy for like a statue of Avendir or something.
So this is where Cohh goes and commits.
Kills inside, we'll say.
Yeah.
He has disgraced his family. It is time to jump from the walls.
But yeah, awesome job. And the way he lies in the grass, and the grass around him kind of like hides his corpse.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
It really has got the layering done well.
Well, I do have to, I mean, this is something that probably should have been said early on, but I mean, I'm happy with the progress that like the grass has made, because if you have your graphics up high enough, you know, some people like to play max detail.
Ultra diff.
Some people like to, even though you can handle it, like to play on a lower detail just for the sake of performance. I'm a guy who I do a mixture. My system can handle ultra settings, but I always scale a couple things back.
Yeah.
But that feeling of watching the grass or bushes kind of impact with my character as it moves goes a very long way to adding that little bit of immersion that I don't necessarily even notice. But it helps me become immersed.
But it's subliminal, isn't it?
Yes,
it's in the back. It's as you walking around outside, you see the wind blowing the grass, you know, and it feels natural. Yeah. And that's how this is looking. It's
kind of like, you know, if your character could run through a tree, you'd probably be like, you know, well, that's not very realistic. That kind of just throws me out of the game.
Yeah.
But, you know, you don't really pay much attention to the effect of having a tree that stops you in your path actually has on you. And the same goes with little things like grass. All those scribbly notes.
I wish I could read them all.
Right, clearer.
Camp Be Dark.
It's Camp Be Dark.
Be Dark, Camp.
Ooh. Foreshadowing. I'm gonna kill the guards because the naming of the building told me to. Told me to be dark.
So, definitely love to see. You know, these are the kind of videos I think that will do them more good than anything else.
Right.
You know, showing off what you guys do and why it's done this way. You know, the technical art stream that they did, the making of the city. This is the kind of stuff that I think we would all love to see more of. You know, and even if it is only a half an hour stream, but getting into so much detail and actually talking about it and getting a better understanding as to why it's done like this. And obviously, a time lapse of any of those buildings from the stream, seeing it in a time lapse from its grey box to the finished product. If that is something that VR can do, I think a lot of us would love to see a developer go through a time lapse and show off the stages and how it's done.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. I think it's something that possibly would not be that difficult to do per se, because really it would just take OBS and the ability of the person doing the work to use it, and just a little bit of editing here and there to speed it up, and maybe cut out a few things here that are just like, you don't want to see someone move the same stone 17 times in a row.
Yeah.
Cut out one or two,
Exactly.
But it would it's like when Monty was streaming and he was doing some 3D modeling that was not Pantheon related. He would like see a picture and then recreate it 3D. I'm not a designer. I'm not a 3D guy. I can't even wrap my head around making a freaking cube in Blender. So,
You actually start out with a cube, dude.
yeah, I know. I have problems.
But he'll still wreck it.
But anyway, watching Monty do that kind of stuff was almost entrancing. It was just mesmerizing to watch. And then I'd walk away and be like, "That was amazing. Oh my god, I hate him. He's so good at that stuff."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So, we've come to the end, unfortunately.
That's okay.
But
everyone's out there tired of hearing us prattle on.
You'll see us pretty much stream every Tuesday and Thursday until the end of the month, because we're back next Tuesday with Tavern Talk. But this Thursday we have Martini with us on our player Q&A. We'll be joined by Martini. I'll get to sit down with her and talk about Pantheon and all the good stuff. So look forward to that.
Time.
Yep.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks for joining us, guys, and we will see you all Thursday. Same channel, different time. We'll be back to our regular show time at 4 p.m. Eastern.
Yep. I'll leave this one here just saying thank you to VR. Thank you to Cohh Carnage, which, by the way, is a fantastic streamer.
Definitely.
He's been very generous in not raising a fuss that we have shown his stream on some of our shows.
Yeah.
If you have not followed this guy, I strongly recommend you do. Twitch.tv/Cohh Carnage, just one word, 2 H's. We'll probably have a link somewhere on YouTube for him as well.
Yeah.
I hope everyone out there has enjoyed the making of a city stream. Really great stuff. I can't wait until they do it again.
Yeah.
And from my side, I think if we look at the picture in the background that Jan's got there, I cannot wait to see the city in that state come its completion phase. I think it is going to be amazing. We won't see anything like it in any other MMO.
Yep.
So keep it strong, VR. You guys are doing a great job.
Cool. And to answer your question, Foxo, yes, we are streaming Thursday on Thanksgiving. There. So with that, guys, take care. And Mr. Aradoon, thanks for popping in. And we will see you all soon.